Brent, so the federal government has said to TikTok, shut down your corporate operations in Canada. Why?
So the short answer to why is the tool they're using here is under the Investment Canada Act, and shutting down a Canadian business is one of the very few powers that they have under that act to deal with a company they have concerns about. The concern here, the purpose of the act is to avoid a scenario where a foreign company buys or starts up a Canadian subsidiary and then exerts undue control over that company in Canada. The concern here is that TikTok is owned by ByteDance, a Chinese company. Like most Chinese companies, it's very tightly integrated with the Chinese state. And at a sort of an operational level and data storage level, the TikTok and ByteDance are very closely tied together, hard to separate.
You're doing a good job of keeping your cat out of the picture. Takara, let me ask you, I think one of the issues here is we know the government has security concerns, but we don't know what they are. Do you have a sense of that?
Yeah, so I think that adds to maybe the mystery behind all of this. As was mentioned, there's a lot of information, details that haven't been shared with the public. You do look at the release, they do ask Canadians to do their own due diligence when it comes to their digital security and the data they're sharing online, with TikTok being one of them. But I think this lack of detail is not only confusing for Canadians, but I think it has the power to push individuals away from understanding the danger and harms. I mean, let's be honest, there are creators and businesses, small businesses. There's this idea that only young people use TikTok, which is far from the truth. There are small businesses who make their money, their bread and butter off of this, but they do not have the skills, perhaps. They don't have the tools and the resources to do that type of due diligence, to understand the dangers that live with TikTok. All they see is that the corporate offices have been closed, but the app is still available.
Yeah,
it's confusing.
Full disclosure, CBC News is on TikTok. They just had a clip of an interview I did with Malcolm Gladwell, got, I know, like 1 million views. So we're still on it. And so clearly a decision has been made that so far it's safe. Brent, you said that, experts can kind of try to figure out what the threat is here. What is it?
So the concern here, and it's the same as it is in the United States, where at the moment there's a pending ban of the app, actually pulling the app from the app stores, that's supposed to take effect a couple of weeks after the new administration takes power. So this is something that we and other countries are looking at. But there's two concerns. One is when you have that close connection between a Chinese company controlled by, or at least is heavily influenced by, the Chinese government and the Canadian subsidiary, there's the concern that they have access to Canadians' private information, individuals' private information. There is also the concern that the app could be used to exert foreign influence in Canada over things like foreign, our own domestic elections, for instance. So these are the overall concerns. And I think where a lot of the disconnect here is, okay, so what do you do with that? Do you pull the app from the store? Do you ban the app? That's not what they're doing. What they're doing is just shutting down the Canadian subsidiary. And there's a disconnect there between what's been done and what would actually address the concerns that have been raised.
You know, Takara, as I listen to that, I can't help but think about X, the former Twitter, which I'm on, that Elon Musk owns. And I just wonder, how safe are any of these social media platforms for we, the users?
Yes, I mean, that was one of the things that popped into my head, is that if we are worried about foreign interference, if we're worried about how Canadian data is used, abused, sold, et cetera, I think these types of actions could apply to any social media platform. And anyone who's used Facebook over the last decade understands how that platform itself has influenced elections. It is, I do not feel that, protecting Canadians when it comes to digital influence, electoral influence, isn't a priority, but how it's applied is a little confusing at times. And I think all social media platforms have the ability to influence not only Canadians' voting patterns, but what we buy and how we talk about very serious issues across this country. So there's the disconnect. And I just want to add that how this is being communicated to the public leaves a vast amount of space for foreign interference, for misinformation and disinformation. A press release in of itself that most Canadians, let's be honest, are not going to read, is really could possibly do more harm than good.
I want to come back to each of you for one last comment, about 30 seconds. But first, let's hear from one of the people who's concerned, a TikTok mom content creator.
Sure, you've all heard the news about the TikTok ban here in Canada, and like me, are probably freaking out about it a little bit. So basically what's happened is that the Canadian government has banned all operations of TikTok within the country, which means that they can no longer have offices here. As far as creators go, we still have access to the platform, we still are able to create content, but there's a lot of uncertainty about like what this means moving forward for the platform. Should I be doomsday piling my videos and saving everything off the platform? I don't know. There's not a lot of news. There's a lot of speculation. So what have you heard? Canadian mamas, what are we doing?
30 seconds to each of you. Advice either for her, Brent, or TikTok users in Canada generally. Go ahead.
Sure. So the reason that they have shut down the offices is that under this procedure, that's the only control they have. This isn't an act designed to deal with digital media, and it's not designed to deal with the situation here where the company is separate from the product and you can have the product without the company operating in Canada. It's the wrong tool for the job that we're told they're trying to perform.
Takara?
First of all, creators, regardless of what space or industry they work in, they should be diversifying where they post their content. It shouldn't just be on TikTok, shouldn't be just on Threads or Instagram. They should be making sure they're posting it everywhere and saving any type of content. The creator economy is more unpredictable now than it has been in the last 5 years. So if you're reliant on one platform to make your money or to reach your audience, this should be a sign that you should be everywhere. You should be saving content. You should be prepared if there is a ban, not just for TikTok, but for any of the other social media platforms.
Takara, Brent, thank you very much.
Thank you.